He trusted a supposed friend to rob his own family, but he didn't know that loyalty was the true treasure of that house.
Aunt Martha's house always smelled of fresh coffee and lavender. The wooden walls creaked softly with the wind, guarding decades of memories. Martha was a widow with calloused hands, a face marked by time, but with a heart that refused to harden. Ever since her husband passed away, she lived simply, finding joy in the little things.
Her nephew, John, was a constant presence in that house. John wasn't a bad kid, but he carried youth's most dangerous flaw, a weak, easily molded mind. He walked in the shadow of his friend, Derek. Derek was the kind of influence that rots a tree's roots before the leaves even begin to fall. He was an urban parasite. He wore clothes he couldn't afford, flaunted a fake watch on his wrist, and always had a sly smirk on his face. Derek never sweat to earn absolutely anything in his life. He was always looking for a shortcut, a loophole, whispering ideas of easy money into the ear of anyone who would listen. And John, blinded by trust and the desire to belong somewhere, took every word Derek said as absolute truth. The first domino fell on a gray Saturday. Martha, feeling the weight of age in her joints, had spread the word around the neighborhood that she needed help organizing and cleaning the old basement, a place untouched since the death of her husband, Harold, John's uncle.
In a small joint effort, neighbors and old friends stepped up to help. Among them was John. And Derek, sniffing out the perfect opportunity to snoop around amidst the distraction of so many people, offered his help with a fake sympathy that Martha, out of pure politeness, didn't refuse.
The basement was a maze of rusty toolboxes, furniture covered in sheets, and the heavy smell of mildew. It was in the back of the room, behind an old oak bookshelf, far from the eyes of the other neighbors, that Derek found it. An oil painting, held in a heavy, ornate frame, hidden beneath a thick canvas tarp. Derek's eyes gleamed like a coyote's. He pulled John into the darkest corner of the basement, his voice reduced to a venomous whisper.
John, look at these brush strokes. This is 19th century. I know art. Your aunt is sitting on a coal mine and has no idea. She's gonna let this rot down here with the rats.
We can't touch her things, Derek. This must be important.
Important? She doesn't even remember this exists. Imagine what we can do with thousands of dollars, John. We split it. 50-50. Nobody gets hurt.
The promise of quick cash, combined with the suffocating pressure of his fake friend and the ease of moving around a crowded house, was simply too strong. With his heart pounding in his throat and his breath short, John made the biggest mistake of his life.
He rolled the painting into an old curtain, and under Derek's approving gaze, walked away with his own aunt's painting. Forgetting his backpack, John slipped out the back door while the neighbors were busy cleaning the front of the house.
The illusion of grandeur lasted exactly 12 hours. The next morning, with the painting hidden in the trunk, they drove to the upscale side of the city, parking in front of a renowned art gallery and antique shop.
The art appraiser was an old man with thin glasses and a bored expression. He placed the painting under the bright lights of the counter. Derek was already rubbing his hands together, counting the thousands of dollars in his head. The appraiser adjusted his glasses, looked at the canvas for no more than 5 seconds, and let out a heavy laugh.
Where did you two find this? At a yard sale?
What are you talking about? Look at the texture, the frame.
The frame is painted plastic, and the canvas is an absurdly amateur piece of work. The paint didn't even dry properly, and the proportions are all wrong. This was painted by someone with absolutely zero technique, probably as a Sunday hobby. The commercial value is strictly zero. If you want, I can throw it in the trash out back so you don't dirty your car.
The silence that followed was deafening. There was no treasure. There were no thousands of dollars. It was just garbage. On the drive back, Derek's mask began to fall. Frustrated and feeling humiliated, he scoffed in anger, treating John with a brutal coldness. He blamed John for making him waste his time with the useless old lady. John, still dazed and blinded by his dependence on that friendship, swallowed hard, thinking Derek was just stressed about the situation.
Late that afternoon, John returned to his aunt's house. He planned to walk in, grab his backpack, and go back to his own apartment. But when he pushed the living room door open, his blood ran cold.
Martha was sitting in her old fabric armchair, her trembling hands covering her face. She was crying. Not a loud cry, but that silent, agonizing weeping of someone who just lost a piece of their own soul. The basement door was open. Among so many people in the house that day, she had noticed that exact item was missing.
Aunt Martha, what happened?
They took your uncle's memories, John. Someone who came to help today took the painting he made for me. It doesn't have any financial value to anyone, my boy, but it was all I had left of our late afternoons in the backyard.
Remorse hit John like a speeding freight train. The fog of Derek's manipulation vanished instantly. He looked at his aunt, huddled in the armchair, and for the first time in years, he felt disgusted with himself. Guilt crushed his chest. He didn't leave. With a trembling voice, he made up an excuse, saying he wasn't feeling well and that the pipes in his apartment had burst, asking if he could sleep on the couch. He needed to stay. He needed to keep her company.
During the early hours of the morning, the rain beat hard against the windows of the old house. John couldn't close his eyes on the living room couch. Around 3 a.m, a subtle noise, different from the rain, caught his attention. The muffled sound of metal forcing the back door open. John stood up silently, walking on his tiptoes down the dark hallway. When he got close to Martha's bedroom, he saw the silhouette. It was Derek. Frustrated that he couldn't get any money for the painting, the parasite had come back to take something of real value. He was holding a screwdriver, trying to pry open the matriarch's old jewelry drawer. Suddenly, Martha's bedside lamp clicked on. She woke up startled, pulling the blanket up, her eyes wide as she saw an intruder in her room. Caught red-handed and cornered, Derek turned around. He saw John standing in the bedroom doorway and, in an act of absolute cowardice, showed exactly who he was.
Calm down, ma'am. It was him. John sent me here. He already stole your husband's painting this morning, and now he said we were going to take the rest. I only came because he threatened me.
Hearing that parasite lie so viciously, trying to destroy the last shred of trust of the woman who raised him, was the spark that finally ignited. John's blood boiled. He didn't think. He just reacted. John charged at Derek with an uncontrollable fury. He grabbed his fake friend by the collar, slamming him against the wall. The nightstand crashed to the floor, breaking into pieces. Derek tried to fight back with the screwdriver, but John was faster. A solid punch, fueled by years of regret, struck Derek's face, knocking him down. John dropped on top of him, pinning the parasite's arm with his knee pressed hard against his back, holding him right there, trapped against the hardwood floor.
Call Call the police, Aunt Martha! Call them now!
10 minutes later, sirens tore through the rainy night. Police officers entered the house with their flashlights on. When they asked what had happened, Martha looked deeply at the scene. She stared at John for a second and then looked at Derek. With the unshakable posture of a matriarch, she addressed the officers.
This man broke into my house and tried to steal my things. My nephew immobilized him.
She didn't accuse her own blood. The fake friend, now with a bleeding face and his mask completely shattered, walked out handcuffed and humiliated into the back of the squad car, disappearing into the rain. The police car turned the corner. Martha's house sank into a heavy silence. John stood in the middle of the living room, looking at the floor, his knuckles still aching. He expected Martha to walk over to the door, unlock it, and tell him to get out and never come back. He knew he deserved it. But the matriarch didn't do that. She went to the kitchen and minutes later returned with 2 hot cups of coffee. She placed the cups on the table and sat in her armchair, looking deep into the boy's eyes.
Do you know why I didn't turn you over to the police, John?
I don't deserve to be in this house, Aunt Martha. I was weak. I caused all of this.
Yes, you did. The mistake you made was born of your weakness to follow people who are no good. But a real man isn't measured by never making mistakes, my boy. I saw the way you protected this house today. A man's value is measured by the people he chooses to have by his side in the trenches, and by the courage to protect his own blood when the door is broken down. Loyalty to your family is not negotiable. You cut the evil out by the root tonight. Now, prove to me that you've learned your lesson.
That night, the easily influenced boy died, and a real man was born. John completely cut all ties with the past. In the days that followed, he rolled up his sleeves, fixed the broken door, repaired the roof, and started taking care of the garden. A few weeks later, a police cruiser pulled up in front of the house. The police had recovered the rustic painting, found tossed in a dumpster near the antique shop. The afternoon light poured through the living room window. John and Aunt Martha stood side by side. With a hammer in his hands, John drove the nail into the center wall of the living room. Together, they lifted the painting and hung it in a special place they had prepared together, dedicated to the memory of Uncle Harold. The house and the family were finally safe. Often, we need to be hurt by fake friendships to learn how to protect and value those who truly share our blood. What about you? What did you think of John's actions in his aunt's bedroom? Would you have also attacked a fake friend to defend your family? Or do you think John should have been arrested along with him for the initial theft? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. If this story about loyalty, strength, and character made you reflect, drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Remember, true gold is never on the wall, but in the people who help you hang it. Until next time.